I signed the divorce papers that morning, the ink cold and indifferent on the page, much like the gaze of my ex-husband across the table. I felt the weight of the past 10 years slide off my shoulders, piece by heavy piece, as I pushed the papers across the sleek, glass surface. The room was sterile, white walls echoing back our clipped, formal exchanges. Outside, the city hummed indifferently, the bustle of morning traffic weaving a complex tapestry of sounds that seemed alien to the silence between us. As I left the attorney's office, I clutched my purse closer, the leather creased and familiar under my grasp, a stark contrast to the unfamiliarity of my new life ahead. I started anew in a small, coastal town where nobody knew my name or my past. The seaside was a sprawling canvas of blues and grays, waves lapping at the shore like whispered secrets. I found a quaint little café by the water's edge, its windows always foggy with the breath of the sea. It was there that I met him, my new beginning. He was the owner, a man with a smile that reached his eyes and a gentle way about him that felt like sunlight after endless rain. Another rough day, he'd ask as I took my usual spot by the window, my hands wrapped around a mug of hot chocolate, the warmth seeping into my chilled bones. I'd nod, and we'd fall into an easy conversation. Each word he uttered felt like a stitch in the patchwork of my new life. Days turned into weeks, and I found myself woven into the fabric of this small town. My daughter, who had clung to my side through the divorce, began to blossom here, her laughter mingling with the seagulls' cries as she played on the sandy beach. I watched her from the cafe, my heart swelling with a mix of pride and relief. I caught him watching me often, his gaze lingering with an intensity that both unnerved and excited me. Today, as I sipped my coffee, watching the storm clouds gather over the horizon, he joined me at my table. "You look like you're 1,000 miles away," he noted, his voice a soft rumble over the sound of the brewing storm. I smiled, turning to face him, the proximity sending a thrill through me. "Just thinking about how much has changed," I confessed, my voice barely above the whisper of rain against the windows. He reached out, his hand covering mine, warmth spreading from his touch. "Change can be good," he said, his eyes searching mine, especially when it leads you to better shores. His words hung between us, heavy with unspoken promise. I nodded, feeling my heart skip a beat as I looked into his eyes. His gaze was like a beacon in the fog, guiding me towards something new and unknown. I felt my hand being gently squeezed, and I couldn't help but squeeze back, acknowledging the silent communication between us. "I suppose I'm just afraid," I confessed, the evening air cooling around us as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow that framed his face. "You're not alone in that," he replied softly, his thumb caressing the back of my hand. "But I'm here, aren't I? Walking this path with you." His words enveloped me like a warm blanket, and I found comfort I hadn't known I needed. "I know, and I'm grateful for you," I told him, my voice barely above a whisper. We stood there, on the edge of the park, the world continuing around us while we remained in our own little bubble of shared understanding and burgeoning feelings. I invited him over the following evening, my apartment filled with the soft glow of candlelight and the aroma of the dinner I had prepared. I wanted to create a space that felt intimate, a place where we could explore the depths of our connection without the outside world intruding. As he stepped inside, his eyes widened slightly, taking in the scene. "You did all this for me?" he asked, a hint of awe in his voice. "I did," I replied, feeling a flush of pride. "I wanted tonight to be special." He walked towards me, his steps slow and deliberate, and I felt my breath catch in my throat. He stopped just inches from me, his hand coming up to gently caress my cheek. "You're incredible, you know that," he murmured, and I felt my heart thumping loudly in my chest. I want to give us, a real chance," I stammered, my nerves getting the better of me. "You already have," he assured me, leaning in to place a soft kiss on my forehead. "Let's enjoy tonight, together." After dinner, we moved to the small balcony, the city lights twinkling like distant stars. I wrapped a blanket around my shoulders, and he sat beside me, our sides touching. I felt every point of contact like a spark, electrifying yet comforting. "I've never felt like this before," I admitted, the cityscape sprawling before us providing a breathtaking backdrop. Scared yet excited. Hesitant yet hopeful. He turned to look at me, his eyes reflecting the city lights. I understand. I feel it too, he said, his voice a soothing balm to my chaotic thoughts. But with you, it feels right. Like all the pieces are falling into place. I leaned my head against his shoulder, and he wrapped an arm around me, pulling me closer. Maybe they are, I whispered, allowing myself to believe in the possibility of us. We sat there, the night wrapping around us like a promise, the city humming below as if in approval of this new chapter we were daring to write together. I leaned closer to him, the cool breeze tousling my hair as I searched his eyes, looking for signs of the hesitation that often haunted new beginnings. Do you ever think about the future? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, afraid to shatter the fragile peace of the evening. He turned to me, his face illuminated by the city lights that flickered like distant stars. I do, he replied, his hand reaching out to tuck a stray lock of hair behind my ear. And lately, it started to include you. I felt a warmth spread through me, a stark contrast to the chill of the night air. We were silent for a moment, the only sound the distant hum of the city and the soft rustle of leaves around us. His closeness felt like a beacon in the swirling uncertainties of my life. I want to be cautious, I finally confessed, because my heart is tired of surprises that end in goodbyes. He nodded, understanding coloring his expression. I know what you mean. But maybe, just maybe, we could take a chance on this, on us. Take it slow, see where it leads? I smiled, a flicker of hope igniting within me. I'd like that, I said, feeling a door inside me creak open, its hinges rusty with disuse but still functional. We sat there for a little while longer, the cityscape a canvas to our unfolding story, daring to sketch our dreams in its expansive borders. I woke up the next morning with a smile lingering on my lips, an unusual souvenir from the night before. I stretched languidly, my mind replaying the moments spent with him, each memory a soft note in the symphony of my usually quiet mornings. As I made my coffee, I wondered about the nuances of starting something new after so much had ended. My kitchen window offered a view of the bustling street below, people hurrying along, each absorbed in their own narratives. I sipped my coffee, the bitter warmth comforting my introspective mood. Later, I found myself walking towards the small bookstore where we had agreed to meet. The bell above the door chimed as I entered, a sound that seemed to mark the beginning of something special. I found him in the history section, lost in the pages of a book about ancient Rome. You're early, I said, my voice playful. I was eager, he replied, his eyes lighting up as he looked at me. He set the book down and we walked to a cozy corner of the store, where the smell of old pages and coffee blended into a scent that spoke of age-old stories and new beginnings. I used to come here to hide from the world, I confessed as we settled into the soft armchairs. But today, it feels like I'm stepping out into it. He reached for my hand, his touch gentle. I'm glad you're stepping out into it with me, he said, his voice sincere. I invited him over for dinner later that week, a decision that had my nerves twisted in anticipation. My apartment felt too small, every imperfection suddenly glaring under the weight of his impending visit. I fussed over the details, wanting everything to be perfect, wanting the evening to smooth over the rough edges of my past hesitations. As I chopped vegetables for the salad, I thought about how natural it felt to consider his preferences, how hoping he'd enjoy the evening filled me with a tender warmth. When the doorbell rang, I felt my heart skip a beat. I opened the door to find him holding a bouquet of sunflowers, their bright faces promising light. These reminded me of you, he said, and I couldn't help but think that no one had ever brought me sunflowers before. We cooked together, laughter and stories mingling with the aroma of the food. I showed him my collection of jazz records, and we danced in my living room, my head resting against his chest as we swayed to the soulful melodies. I'm really happy right now, I confessed as the record spun to an end, the last notes lingering like a soft sigh. So am I, he whispered back, his arms tightening around me. As we stood there, my fears seemed to unravel, thread by thread, woven away by the melody of our evening together. I breathed in the scent of him, a mix of sandalwood and something uniquely him, as we swayed gently to the music that seemed to be made just for us. I couldn't remember the last time I felt this connected to someone, as if every worry had evaporated under his gaze. "Do you ever think about fate?" I asked, my voice a whisper against his ear as we moved in sync to the soft strum of a guitar. "I think about it more now than ever," he replied, his breath warm on my neck. "Meeting you, in that random bookstore on a rainy Tuesday, didn't feel coincidental." I laughed softly, the sound mingling with the melody around us. "I never thought my sanctuary from the rain would lead me here." His fingers brushed lightly against the small of my back, sending shivers up my spine. Every moment since then has felt like stepping through pages of a novel designed just for us. I rested my head against his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. "I'm scared," I confessed, the words muffled by his shirt. "Tell me why," he urged gently, tipping my chin up so he could look into my eyes. "I'm scared of waking up and finding that this is just another page in a book that's bound to end," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. "But what if it's a book with multiple volumes?" he suggested, a twinkle of hope lighting his eyes. I pulled back slightly, studying his face in the dim light. His eyes held a sincerity that made my heart skip a beat. "What if we get to write those volumes together?" he asked, his question hanging between us like the notes of the last song still vibrating in the air. I considered his words, the possibility of a future I had been too afraid to contemplate alone. "That sounds terrifyingly beautiful," I murmured, allowing myself to get lost in the depth of his gaze. "Life is terrifying," he agreed, his thumb caressing my cheek softly. "But it's less so with someone beside you. Someone who understands the darkest parts of you and chooses to bring a flashlight." I smiled, feeling a warmth spread through me that had nothing to do with the summer night. "You have a way with words." "I only aim to speak my heart," he replied, his voice earnest. "And my heart speaks of you." The confession wrapped around me like a comforting blanket. I leaned in, and our lips met in a kiss that felt like the first in 1,000 others all at once. It was tender and searching, a question and an answer woven into one. I broke the kiss first, my breath heavy, my mind racing. I traced the line of his jaw with my finger, feeling the stubble that prickled at my touch. "I don't know what the future holds," I began, my voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside me. "Neither do I," he admitted, his eyes reflecting the moonlight. "But I know what I want it to hold. I want it to hold you." I swallowed, my heart hammering against my ribs. "And if I say yes? What happens when the music stops and the real world rushes back in?" He took my hands in his grip firm yet gentle. "Then we face it together," he promised. "We write our story with the real world as our background music." I nodded, the decision settling in my heart. "Then let's start writing," I said, my voice more confident than I felt. His smile was like the dawn, bright and full of new beginnings. "Let's start writing," he echoed, and together we stepped back into the dance, the night air echoing with the promise of tomorrow. I watched him as he listened to me, his eyes reflecting a mix of hope and uncertainty. "I don't know either," I admitted, the chill of the evening making me shiver slightly. He noticed and pulled me closer under the shared warmth of his coat. "But I know I don't want to lose what we have right now." His nod was slow, thoughtful, his fingers brushing a stray lock of hair behind my ear. The gesture, so tender and familiar, unraveled the knot of anxiety in my chest. "I'm scared," I confessed, my voice barely above a whisper against the backdrop of the quiet park. The lights from the nearby street cast gentle glows on the path, and the distant sound of a car passing by reminded me of the world moving around us. "So am I," he replied, his breath visible in the air as he spoke. His fingers tightened around mine, grounding me. "But maybe that's okay. Maybe it's okay to be scared together." His words, simple yet profound, filled me with a cautious optimism. I leaned into him, my head resting on his shoulder, as we watched the faint stars beginning to dot the night sky. I woke up the next morning with a sense of clarity. I decided to take a walk, needing the fresh air to clear my thoughts further. The park was quiet, the soft rustling of leaves and the distant chirping of birds creating a tranquil soundtrack to my contemplation. I found myself at the bench where we'd sat many times before, each memory flashing through my mind like a slideshow. I sat down, tracing the initials we had carved discreetly on the side. It was here, in this spot, that I realized how deeply I cherished the moments we shared, regardless of the uncertainty of what lay ahead. As I sat, an elderly couple walked past, their hands intertwined, a silent testament to enduring companionship. I envisioned a future where fear didn't hold me back, where I could embrace the possibilities rather than being anchored by past hurts. It was a future I wanted, one I was ready to fight for. Later that day, I met him at our favorite coffee shop, the one with the mismatched chairs and the cozy corner that felt like it was made just for us. I saw him through the window, his profile bathed in the soft afternoon light, and my heart swelled with a mix of nerves and excitement. I walked in, and he looked up, his face lighting up as our eyes met. I took the seat opposite him, taking in the familiar scent of coffee and cinnamon in the air. "I've been thinking," I started, my hands wrapped around the warm cup. He waited, his expression open, encouraging. "I want to try," I continued, "really try. With you." I felt my voice shake with the weight of my decision, but I held his gaze. He reached across the table, his hand covering mine. "I want that too," he said, his voice steady and sure. His touch, warm and reassuring, melted away the last of my doubts. As we sat there, talking about everything and nothing, I realized that the fear of the unknown could never outweigh the joy found in shared moments and whispered promises. I had made my choice, and it felt like the beginning of something beautiful.